Along the rocky coastline of Antarctica, where exposed stone meets the endless white of ice and snow, a different kind of penguin makes its home. Smaller than the regal emperor, but no less remarkable, the Adélie penguin is a bird of extraordinary determination and surprising personality. With their classic tuxedo appearance, white ring around the eye, and almost comical waddle, Adélies are what most people picture when they think of penguins. But beneath that charming exterior lies one of Antarctica's toughest and most resourceful survivors. These are the penguins that travel further south than almost any other bird species, nesting on ice-free rocky outcrops around the entire Antarctic continent. They're birds of habit and tradition, returning year after year to the same nesting sites their ancestors used for thousands of years. Named after Adelie Land, a section of the Antarctic coast claimed by France and named for the wife of explorer Jules Dumont d'Urville. These penguins embody the spirit of the Antarctic summer, arriving in massive colonies when the ice begins to break and departing before winter's darkness returns. The Adélie penguin is a medium-sized penguin, standing about 28 inches tall and weighing between 8 and 12 pounds. They're compact and powerfully built, with a body designed for efficiency in the water. Compared to emperor penguins, which can tower over 3 feet tall, Adélies seem almost diminutive, but what they lack in size they make up for in energy and tenacity. Their plumage follows the classic penguin pattern: jet black back, head, and chin, with brilliant white front and belly. But it's their face that makes them instantly recognizable. Each eye is surrounded by a distinctive white ring that extends slightly to the rear, giving them a wide-eyed, perpetually surprised expression. Their beak is relatively short compared to other penguin species and is covered by brownish-red to orange-red skin at the base, with a black tip. During breeding season, this coloration becomes more vibrant, particularly in males. Their flippers are proportionally quite long for their body size, black on the outside and white on the underside with a black tip. These flippers are stiff and powerful, acting as wings that propel them through the water with remarkable speed and agility. Unlike the wings of flying birds, penguin flippers cannot fold. They're essentially fixed in an outstretched position, streamlined for swimming rather than flight. One of the most charming features of Adélie penguins is their feet. Large and pink with black claws, these feet are positioned far back on their body, which explains their distinctive waddling gait on land. This rear placement makes walking somewhat awkward and energy-intensive, but it's perfect for swimming, where the feet act as rudders for steering and braking. When moving across snow and ice, Adélies often toboggan on their bellies, using their feet and flippers to push themselves along. It's faster and more energy efficient than walking, and watching a group of Adélies tobogganing down a snowy slope is both amusing and impressive. Their tail is longer and more prominent than that of most penguin species, consisting of 14 to 16 stiff feathers. When standing, Adélies often use this tail as a prop, creating a tripod with their feet and tail to maintain balance. This is particularly useful on steep or slippery rocky terrain where their colonies are often located. In October and November, as the Antarctic spring takes hold, Adélie penguins arrive at their breeding colonies, called rookeries. These rookeries are found on ice-free coastal areas, typically on rocky beaches, headlands, and offshore islands around the Antarctic continent. Some colonies are small, containing just a few hundred pairs, while others are massive, with tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of nesting pairs, creating a scene of almost unimaginable activity and noise. The males typically arrive first, sometimes a week or more before the females. Their first task is to locate and claim a nest site. Adélies show remarkable site fidelity, with many individuals returning to the exact same nest location they used in previous years. They can recognize their specific territory even among thousands of similar-looking rocky patches. If another penguin has claimed their spot, disputes erupt. These conflicts involve much loud vocalizing, chest bumping, and flipper slapping, though they rarely result in serious injury. The nest itself is a simple but crucial structure, a shallow circular depression surrounded by a raised rim of small stones. These stones are precious commodities in Adélie colonies. There are never enough good stones to go around, and penguins will steal from each other's nests whenever possible. A penguin might spend hours carefully arranging stones around its nest, only to turn around and find a neighbor stealing several of the best ones. This stone theft is constant throughout the breeding season, creating an ongoing game of vigilance and opportunistic pilfering. The stones serve a vital function beyond just marking territory. The raised stone rim keeps eggs elevated above the ground, protecting them from meltwater that forms during sunny days. Antarctic summers can be surprisingly warm in places, with temperatures occasionally rising above freezing. Snow and ice melt, creating puddles and streams that flow through the colonies. Without the stone barrier, eggs could be flooded with icy water, killing the developing chicks inside. The rookeries are established in the same locations year after year, century after century. Some Adélie penguin colonies have been in continuous use for thousands of years. Scientists have found layers of penguin remains, eggshells, and guano deposits several feet deep at some sites, representing countless generations of penguins that nested in the exact same spot. This faithfulness to traditional sites is remarkable, but it also makes Adélie penguins vulnerable to changes in those specific locations. Once the males have established their territories, the females arrive, and the rookery transforms into a scene of frantic courtship activity. Male Adélies engage in an elaborate display called the ecstatic display, which is exactly as dramatic as it sounds. The male throws his head back, points his beak skyward, and produces a loud, braying call while rapidly beating his flippers against his sides. He may do this dozens of times in succession, advertising his presence and the quality of his nest site to any females in the area. Females walk through the colony, evaluating potential mates. They seem to assess both the male himself and the quality of his nest site, particularly how many stones is managed to accumulate. A well-built nest with abundant stones indicates a male who is experienced, resourceful, and capable of defending his territory. Previous mates often reunite, recognizing each other by their calls, but divorce rates in Adélie penguins are relatively high. If a male's performance was poor the previous year, or if his nest site has deteriorated, the female may choose a different partner. Once a pair bonds, they engage in mutual displays, both stretching their necks upward and calling together. They may bow to each other, touch beaks, and preen one another's feathers. These behaviors strengthen the pair bond and synchronize their reproductive timing. The pair will remain together throughout the breeding season, working as a team to incubate eggs and raise their chicks. The female typically lays 2 eggs, usually about 3 days apart. The eggs are pale green or white when first laid, but quickly become stained brown from the muddy, guano-covered stones of the nest. Each egg weighs about 4.5 ounces and must be kept warm constantly in the Antarctic environment. The parents take turns incubating, with one staying on the nest while the other travels to the ocean to feed. Incubation shifts last anywhere from a few days to over a week, depending on how far the feeding parent must travel to reach open water. During incubation, the penguin on nest duty must be constantly vigilant. The rookery is patrolled by predatory birds that specialize in stealing eggs and attacking chicks. Brown skuas and South Polar skuas circle overhead and walk boldly through the colony, looking for any momentary lapse in parental attention. A penguin that steps away from its nest for even a minute may return to find its eggs gone, carried off in a skua's beak. In the water, the awkward, waddling Adélie Penguin transforms into a creature of grace, speed, and deadly efficiency. They are pursuit predators, chasing down their prey with bursts of incredible speed. Adelies can swim at sustained speeds of about 5 miles per hour when traveling, but can accelerate to over 9 miles per hour in short bursts when chasing prey or evading predators. They achieve this speed through powerful strokes of their flippers, literally flying through the water as if it were air. Their primary prey is Antarctic krill, the same small crustaceans that humpback whales consume in such vast quantities. A single Adélie penguin needs to eat about 2 pounds of krill per day to meet its energy requirements, though during chick rearing season, adults may consume considerably more as they must also provision their growing offspring. They also eat small fish, particularly Antarctic silverfish, and various species of squid when available. Adélie penguins typically dive to depths of about 100 to 150 feet when foraging, though they're capable of diving much deeper if necessary. Dives exceeding 300 feet have been recorded, and the deepest known dive for an Adélie penguin reached 575 feet. Most foraging dives last 2 to 3 minutes, though they can hold their breath for up to 6 minutes if needed. Unlike the extreme deep divers such as emperor penguins and Weddell seals, Adélies are adapted for making many relatively shallow, short dives rather than fewer deep, long dives. Their hunting strategy often involves group coordination. Adélies frequently forage in groups, diving together in pursuit of krill swarms. There may be safety in numbers, as a group of penguins is more likely to detect and evade predators like leopard seals. Group foraging may also be more efficient, as multiple penguins diving together can corner and concentrate krill, making them easier to capture. When traveling to and from foraging areas, Adélies often engage in a behavior called porpoising. They swim just below the surface and periodically burst out of the water in a smooth arc before diving back in. This reduces drag and allows them to breathe without significantly slowing down. Watching a group of Adélies porpoising together, multiple birds launching from the water in synchrony, is like witnessing a choreographed performance. After 32 to 34 days of incubation, the eggs begin to hatch. The chicks are tiny, weighing just 3 ounces, and are covered in downy grey-brown feathers. Their eyes are closed for the first few days, and they're completely dependent on their parents for warmth and food. For the first 2 to 3 weeks, one parent remains on the nest at all times, brooding the chicks, and protecting them from cold, wind, and predators, while the other parent forages at sea. The chicks grow rapidly on a diet of regurgitated krill and fish. Parents returning from foraging trips are immediately besieged by their chicks, who beg urgently for food, calling loudly and pecking at the parent's bill. The parent regurgitates partially digested food directly into the chick's mouth. In the first days, the portions are small, but as the chicks grow, they demand and receive increasingly large meals. By 3 to 4 weeks of age, the chicks have grown large enough that they no longer fit comfortably under a brooding parent, and they require so much food that both parents must forage simultaneously to keep up with their demands. At this point, chicks from neighboring nests begin to gather together in groups called creches. These creches can contain dozens or even hundreds of chicks huddled together for warmth and safety while their parents are away at sea. The creche system provides protection through numbers. A lone chick is vulnerable to skua attacks, but a group of chicks can defend themselves more effectively. When a skua approaches, the chicks huddle closer together and face the predator, making it difficult for the skua to single out and attack an individual chick. However, the creche is not perfect protection. Skuas are persistent and clever, and they do succeed in catching chicks that stray from the group or are weakened by hunger or illness. Parents returning from the ocean must locate their own chicks among the masses in the creche. They do this through vocal recognition, calling out and listening for their chick's response. Each chick has a unique voice that its parents can distinguish from all others. The reunion is dramatic, with parent and chick calling back and forth until they find each other. The parent then feeds only its own chicks, ignoring the begging of others, ensuring that its investment in offspring goes to its own genetic offspring rather than unrelated chicks. By late January or early February, after about 50 to 60 days, the chicks have grown their adult feathers and are ready to fledge. They leave the rookery and enter the water for the first time, embarking on their independent lives. Young Adelies face high mortality in their first year. Many will not survive to return to the colony. Those that do survive will spend several years at sea, learning to hunt efficiently and avoid predators, before returning to breed for the first time at around 3 to 5 years of age. Before the adult penguins can leave the colony and migrate north for the winter, they must undergo their annual molt. Molting is a critical and vulnerable time for penguins. Unlike many birds that gradually replace their feathers a few at a time, penguins undergo a catastrophic molt, shedding all their old feathers at once and growing a complete new set. During this time, which lasts about 2 to 3 weeks, they cannot enter the water because their partially grown feathers don't provide adequate insulation or waterproofing. They must come ashore and fast, living off their fat reserves while their new plumage grows in. Before molting begins, Adelies must build up substantial fat reserves by feeding intensively. They need to gain enough weight to survive 2 to 3 weeks without food while also fueling the energy-intensive process of growing a complete new coat of feathers. During the molt, they stand on shore, looking somewhat bedraggled and uncomfortable as their old feathers fall away in clumps and new feathers emerge. It's a miserable time for the penguins, but absolutely necessary. The new feathers will keep them warm and dry throughout the coming year. Once the molt is complete, Adélie penguins leave their breeding colonies and migrate north, away from Antarctica. They spend the winter months at sea, living on and around the pack ice that extends north from the continent. Unlike emperor penguins, which remain in Antarctica year-round, Adelies are migratory, following the advancing and retreating ice edge with the seasons. During winter, they may travel hundreds or even thousands of miles north, dispersing widely across the Southern Ocean. Their winter at sea remains somewhat mysterious to scientists. It's difficult to track penguins in the dark, stormy conditions of the Southern Ocean winter. What is known is that they continue to feed throughout winter, diving beneath the pack ice to hunt for krill and fish. They spend most of their time in the water, resting on ice floes when they need to sleep or preen their feathers. The pack ice provides platforms for resting and also concentrates prey species beneath its edges, making it a productive foraging environment. As the Antarctic spring approaches once again, the Adelies begin their return journey south. They follow the retreating ice edge back toward the continent, timing their arrival at the breeding colonies for when conditions are suitable for nesting. And so the cycle continues, generation after generation, as it has for thousands of years. On a rocky beach in Antarctica, surrounded by thousands of their companions, an Adélie penguin stands atop its stone nest and throws back its head in an ecstatic display. Its call echoes across the colony, mixing with the calls of countless others to create the symphony of an Antarctic rookery. These small penguins, so determined and resilient, will raise their chicks through the brief Antarctic summer, then depart once more to face the challenges of winter at sea. Their story is one of tradition and adaptation, of communities built on bare rock at the edge of the world, and of the enduring rhythms of life in Earth's most extreme environment. Yet among the rocks and ice of Antarctica, still more creatures make their homes, each with their own remarkable strategies for survival.